and ethical business. My name is Katja Bechtel. I'm from the World Economic Forum Partnering Against Corruption initiative. We are one of the co-hosts of this session, and I welcome you also on behalf of my co-host, which is the Alliance for Integrity German Corporation, UNDP, Fairbiz, and Covestro. We really have an exciting session for you coming ahead with women entrepreneurs from all around the world and how they promote business integrity. So I'm sure you will also maybe have some questions that you can post in the chat all the time and that we will try to answer later on in the session. Maybe before we really dive into the session, a few short housekeeping rules. So you're all very used to this format, but this session will be recorded and the recording will afterwards be available on the website of the Alliance for Integrity and also on UNDP Fairbiz websites, and we will share the links in the chat. This is a 90-minute session, so it will run until 4 p.m. CET. And yeah, we hope for your contribution like throughout the session and are really excited to have you. I'm very glad to actually kickstart the session with a few welcome remarks from a very special woman who is a woman entrepreneur herself from Indonesia, but who happens to be as well the chair of the B20 Indonesia in the year 2022. So let's listen for a few minutes to a few welcoming remarks from Ms. Shinta Kamdani, the chair of the B20 Indonesia.
Ladies and gentlemen, good evening from Indonesia. On this special occasion, let me open with welcoming our esteemed panelists, moderators, and audience on this panel. I would also like to thank Ms. Katja Bechtel from Partnering Against Corruption Initiative and UNDP Indonesia for inviting me to speak at this distinguished conference where we can chart a new path for gender equality as drivers of fair and ethical business. Esteemed ladies and gentlemen, as we are all aware, gender inequality phenomena such as gender pay gap, disproportionate domestic pressure, exclusion from economic opportunity, gender-based violence, and other types of discrimination are all examples of integrity flaws. For a long time, women are much less likely than men to be economically active. Globally, women continue to be overrepresented in the informal economy while being underrepresented in managerial positions. In addition, over 2.7 billion women are legally restricted from having the same choice of job as men. Women's economic opportunities and social protection have also been held down, where 55% of economies have laws preventing women from working in specific jobs. 31% have no laws on sexual harassment in the workplace. Early hopes that COVID-19 would help level the playing field for women in the workplace, for example, through mass adoption of less flexible working practices, quickly faded. The reality is that the pandemic has exacerbated existing gender inequalities. In fact, women are losing their job at a faster rate than men because they are most exposed to hard-hit economic sectors. Even more, a disproportionate share of burden still falls more on women, especially in the beginning of the pandemic. Working women currently spend, on average, 15 hours a week more than unpaid domestic labor than men. More than ever, the role of women brings significant contribution to organization integrity and performance, with gender empowerment organizations benefit from an equal working environment and are less likely to experience corruption. This is due gender equal organization will push to create a well-designed anti-corruption mechanism, such as creating a safe gender-sensitive whistleblower reporting system, and hence increasing overall integrity in the organization. Furthermore, organizational diversity will also bring significant impact to higher employee satisfaction, attracting the right talent and customer, improving quality of decision-making to above average profitability. In the end, when a workforce embraces integrity, equality, and trust, the organization will consistently lead to higher profitability and greater sustainability. This is why upholding the theme of advancing innovative, inclusive, and collaborative growth, B20 Indonesia recognized the pivotal role building an inclusive business environment where women have equal opportunities to engage in workforce, economy, innovation as the central pillar of inclusive and sustainable recovery. This vision has been further realized by establishing B20 Indonesia Women in Business Action Council that will focus on eliminating barriers for women to have full inclusion, build foundations that drive equitable workforce leadership, and eradicate gender-based workplace violence. In addition to this, we understand that harnessing the potential of women in the digital economy through opening access to the necessary infrastructure and development are clearly crucial. Therefore, our digitalization as well as trade and investment task force will also ensure to promote digital inclusion by facilitating cross-border investment on digital infrastructure development, especially for women-led businesses. Beyond boosting women participation in digitalization, our Integrity and Compliance Task Force will also promote the issue of sustainable governance in business, in which women play an important part in protecting market integrity, encouraging sustainable growth, and protecting the environment and human rights throughout global supply chain. Having said this, B20 Indonesia believes that the time has come to empower women to be part of solution. I hope that today's discussion will be fruitful for the harmonization to ensure gender equality and integrity, and therefore let us work together to achieve tangible results in the fight towards an ethical and equal world. Thank you very much.
Yes, great indeed to hear this really inspiring words from Ms. Kandami on inclusive growth and empowering women for a much better recovery out of the pandemic. It's now time to really dive into our discussion and hear from different women around the world. And it's a great pleasure to introduce to you our two fabulous moderators. Ms. Susanne Friedrich, she is the director of the Alliance for Integrity, and Mr. Brooke Horowitz, who is a business advisor at UNDP Fair Biz, and also the CEO of IBLF Global. Brooke, Susanne, over to the both of you.
Thank you very much, Katja, and welcome to everybody. This must be the most global event that has ever been held. We've got people in Latin America, the right way round to the middle of the Pacific Ocean. So it's very exciting to have so many different opinions and people coming together around this issue. The nexus of the gender agenda and anti-corruption is a rather new subject, I would say. There have been sporadic pieces of academic work, and there have been efforts in a few countries to find out where the commonality is. But I think in the last year or so, we've really seen an acceleration of this issue. So that's what we'll be discussing today, which is how do women drive forward the anti-corruption agenda? And also, what is the impact of corruption specifically on women? So the structure of today's meeting is that we'll start off with a discussion of the challenges that women face in their markets, and then we will hand over to Susanne will lead a discussion about the solutions that have been found, at least in a couple of the countries. We're not going to have time to talk about all of them, but We really want to get this exchange of best practices and experience. And then in our final session, all our speakers will discuss the steps forward and how can we scale this up, and above all, how can we have impact? How can women change the geography of corruption in the world and in their markets? So to help us unravel these important issues, we've got 4 fantastic speakers, as I said, from around the world. We've got Irene Olkaril, President and Chairlady of the Palau Chamber of Commerce. We've got Dr. Soipech Resanand, Vice Chair of the Federation of Business Professional Women of Thailand, Miss Linda Ofori Kwafo, Executive Director of the Ghana Integrity Initiative, and Erica Diaz, Head of Law, Intellectual Property and Compliance of Covestro, Mexico. So welcome to all of you, and thank you for joining us at all sorts of unearthly times of the day. Now, before we get started on our discussion, we would like to do a little poll, and we've got a Mentimeter all set up for you. And I hope that in the chat, you will be able to see a link to Mentimeter. Can we see that? There it is. Access via join a presentation Menti. You can see it. Michelle has put this up for us. And you use the following code 31660038. And there's a question on there, which is, what are the specific challenges that women face in dealing with corruption? What are the specific corruption challenges? So please, could you go on to Mentimeter while the discussion's going on and put your ideas in about what are the corruption challenges, and we will report back to you about what you felt the key challenges were. Now, we'll get straight into our discussion, and the specific question I'd like to discuss with Irene and Soipech, what are the specific corruption challenges women face, but how are those challenges different from the ones that men face? So let's start with Irene in Palau, and you better just, I'm sorry about this, but maybe not everybody in this webinar of ours knows where Palau is. So please tell us a little bit about your country, and then tell us what are those challenges that women face that are different from the ones that men face. Irene. And we need to have your, I can see you there, and you put your video on, please, so we can see you.
Okay, well, thank you, Brooke.
Yeah, go ahead.
Palau is a small group of islands in it's actually North Pacific, but it's part of the Micronesian group. And Palau itself is around 350 islands with a population of less than 20,000. It is a semi-independent country, signed with a Compact of Free Association with the United States in 1994. But the culture of Palau is at least 3,000 years old. It has been colonized, discovered by the English, colonized by the Spaniards, then the Germans, then the Japanese, then the Americans. And finally, it's independent with a small population, but with a lot of cultural context that is mixed with all the colonizing languages. So it's an interesting small island group in the Pacific.
Great. Now, you're in charge of the Chamber of Commerce, and you've been very active in working on this topic of women, helping women to deal with the issues of corruption. So what are they really facing in Palau?
Well, Palau's culture is a very high context type of culture. Like I said, it's at least 3,000 years, and it has evolved with many different influences. And so the traditions of women originally as a matriarchal society. The women make decisions. They nominate the chiefs, the leaders, who are men. However, because of the way that is common by many major Asian countries, which is shared by Palau, spoken communication is they prefer to talk about what matters. And so they value desired outcomes of relationships with family, with a clan, with a group. And so women are usually the nurturers of the home, and they are expected to maybe not verbally lead, but silently keep the foundation of a family that evolves into different lineages, into a clan system. And so it's a very high context culture in that way, where you inherit property through the woman. When you die, you go, usually if you're not wanted by the father's family, you always go to the mother, the woman. But because of that, women have not really had a chance to be outspoken with corruption. Like if they see wrongdoing in the community happening, they don't really want to break the relationships with their family, clan, group, and so they don't speak about it openly, or it's not tolerating it, but at the same time, not speaking about it is not prohibiting it, corruption. And so that type of culture has made it a huge challenge in Palau when it comes to women and their roles in the society. And then it affects them when they start and they grow their businesses, because in business, integrity is the only way to go. And when you have the high context culture of not being able to say, hey, that's not okay, then sometimes the men kind of take advantage of that and do the things they do in the community when they think the women are not going to say something about it. Then they feel like they can get away with things. That is, I think, the number one challenge for women in Palau. And so I would say it's a huge problem.
Yes,
corruption is a huge problem.
Let me just turn, thank you very much, Irene. That's really fascinating. And I mean, what you're describing there is something of a matriarchal, and I think you used the word when we were talking, matrilineal society. And it's a very small group of people. I mean, 20,000 people. So what's quite interesting about this case study, if you want to call Palau a case study, is can women become the drivers of change in a small society like that? Because essentially, if it's possible in a very micro economic and micro societal way to make change, then we can look at how that could be transferred to other societies, maybe at a local level, and then working upwards to the larger scale. Let me turn to Soipech now. So Soipech, we've been working together on the UNDP Fair Biz project. You are a very senior executive in a federation of business, professional business women of Thailand. So your members in your federation, what kind of problems do they encounter? And women are not in the worst position in Thailand. It's also got some matriarchal qualities, I think, as a society, which might make it actually easier for women to put their foot down and say how things should really be and how should men behave, for example.
Thank you, Brooke. Yes, I would like to, I think a lot about this before I come to this session, and how to put it into, something which is understood, a very, very clear and speakable, because as I read, something like corruption is the topic that, that we have to accept, that we would like to avoid talking about it. and especially if we are in business. So I would like to define first into our cultural dimension here in Thailand. Of course, as women in Thailand, cultural context or dimension, as I said to you, we are the back legs of the elephants. So men are the front two legs of the elephants, and women are the two legs at the back of the elephants. But elephants is a big animal, so we are great. We are going together. But in business, we are very lucky because women are very accepted the context of the cultural context of the meaning of business in Thailand. So I think any business women will not have to face any difficulties in starting business here in Thailand, except if they are from a Chinese family. Still, sometimes if they are mixed Chinese family, the parents may tend to give the successor to the boys, not to the girls, still till today. So that, but if the women, the ladies would like to start their business on their own, I think finally nobody can stop them. And, you know, secondly, by law, we are very equal. We have a very good law. Actually, Thailand has gone through many, changes in law, in our constitution. But I think that we are very happy with the present one. I'm always happy, and I say to everybody that either men and women here in Thailand, we are under the same law. And it's all applied for all Thailand, not only because we don't have a state law or we don't have a provincial law. One law is for the whole country. And I think that as a woman, I'm satisfied with this law, which applies for both men and women. Thirdly, our system for a very long time, for 100 of years, you know that we have a the system which called the patronage system, which is or more is like a support or sponsor supportive system, patronage system. And sometimes there is a saying in our country, it is not what you know, but who you know. So if you are doing business, sometimes you need connection, of course, you need network. And the corruption here, as in business, I think is less severe than in the government sector. In the public, in the government sector, it is more severe than in our business sector. But what is not only corruption, but it might start with something. If you deal with authorities as women, you might have a little bit of feeling of sexual harassment. That is maybe as women, you may face that with authorities who are men, and then start with the corruption, or it comes together. That is the challenges that I would like to put it forward.
Yes, well, this issue of what's often called sextortion, which is where, for example, a public official will use sex as a currency of corruption. That's what it's been called in this very good publication of UNODC called The Time Is Now, published last year, which I thoroughly recommend as a very base study on this issue. This problem is very widespread and often, as you have indicated, perhaps not spoken about openly. I mean, we know from the Me Too movement all over the world that things have been hushed up, and it's a very subtle thing about corruption at all levels of people's careers, their engagement in a company, and it's quite extraordinary, isn't it, that today in the developed West, so-called, these issues are only coming out now. I was just wondering, Irene, in Palau, I mean, this problem of sex as a currency of corruption. Is that something that people are worried about? Are they talking about it? Is it something that is keeping women in their place, as it were, and stopping them from fulfilling their careers and ambitions?
I think it is a problem, but it's very subtle. It's not out in the open. As I have observed over my lifetime for the Republic of Palau and its high context culture, behind every successful business is really truly a woman, the wife. However, the culture mandates that the wife has to be very good to the husband in order to make sure that the money that is made in the business gets to help her brothers and her uncles. So the job of the wife is really, maybe it's not openly in monetary form, but subtly it is an unspoken understanding that whatever they make in the business, the husband must understand that the wife's father, uncles, brothers must be helped by the wife. In other words, it's like it's not openly selling herself, but it really is the same thing, just in a subtle manner, which I think it's affecting a lot of women in the country, because if you have a funeral or a childbirth ceremony or a wedding, you, as a woman, you have to contribute. If it's your brother's child or your uncle, you have to contribute a big amount of money. And that has to come from your husband. Now the husband has to go to his sisters to get that money. So if there is a business that is trying to survive in the midst of this chain of events, the business gets affected. That's when business integrity is taken away, because they get desperate to get money, and then they would take out money from the business for the customs, the traditions, because the husband gets money from his sisters. His sisters are experiencing the same thing what the wife is experiencing, because she has to help her brother or her uncle. So I wouldn't say it is, we call the term here like a sex, what do you call it, Brooke?
Well, I mean, the words, Soipech talked about a form of sexual harassment.
Yeah.
Another way, especially when public officials demand some kind of sexual favors. I mean, it may not be explicit, it may be subtle, but it's called sextortion. So you wouldn't say that it's as specific and open as that, but somehow there's a subtext
Yes,
in
I
the
think
way people live.
Yeah.
Soipech, did you want to come in there? And then we're going to turn to Suzanne in a moment.
Yes, I would like to support also the idea of Irene. But what I mentioned about the sexual harassment in form of a corruption, it is like when I go to deal with authorities at the district officers or of the land department, for example, or at the export offices, for example, and he asked me whether I would like to have lunch with him. I go for business procedure officially, instead of doing his work accordingly and directly. But he just asked me whether I would like to go for lunch with him, which I felt very uncomfortable. And I think that is also a form of sexual harassment, because I don't think he would ask if it's a man, going to deal with, contact him for that business, right? But for what Irene said, I think that is our Oriental culture, meaning that a woman, as a businesswoman, you also have kind of a role to support the whole family, not only men. and that family is not only your own family, but the whole branches of the family. And sometimes we said our close relatives in our close circle of families is about 200 to 300 persons.
Yes.
And that we have to help. And that is not in the context of in the West, because you are more a single family. You take care of your family. But for us, we have to take care, no matter what, we are women or we are men, we still have to give. You know, that's why I concentrate on the support or patronage system that is still on top of our role as a business women.
It's very interesting. Thank you both very much. It's a snapshot of some challenges in two very distinct societies. I think some of you will recognize this in your own societies or variations of the theme. And I'm sure that we can continue to talk about that in the rest of our discussion a bit later. But now I'd like to hand over to Suzanne.
Yeah, thank you, Brooke, very much. And thank you for this first very interesting discussion round. Let's see what our participants think of the challenges that women face in terms of corruption. I'm not sure if we are able to share the word cloud. Yes, there are some points here. So we heard about harassment, gender discrimination. I think most of the points that were mentioned by the two ladies can be seen here as well. We have nepotism, sexism, less opportunities, stereotypes. Well, these are some additional comments, or also the stereotypes, maybe something that we will discuss further when it comes to sharing with you some of the practical tools that have been developed. And yeah, well, let's continue then with the second round. And here I would kindly ask Erika in the first place, what is your answer to the challenges that we have learned? You are representing a large company working with global supply chains, very active in the field of gender and integrity, the relationship between the two concepts, and practical tools that have been developed in your company, but also in the context of a collective action. So please, Erika, what can you share with us in terms of tools and concrete offers to women entrepreneurs?
Sure. And for these kind of challenges, definitely we need solutions. So from my perspective, the private sector plays an important, crucial, and active role as part of the solution. And I want to highlight that I said part of the solution, because the solution should come from three different and main stakeholders. To me, the first is government with public policies with gender perspective. Second, community or civil society. And third, of course, the private sector that creates a safe workplace environment free of corrupt acts and empower women. What I have been working during the last 3 years, 2 or 3 years, and I have the pleasure to be invited by the Association Alliance for Integrity to join efforts in order to find and create solutions focused on entrepreneurial women. The Integrity Coffee was born. That is the name of this initiative. In this format, women meet formally to share in safe spaces about how they are affected by corruption and how they can protect themselves against corruption. The first Integrity Coffee was held in Mexico, was implemented in 2019, and has become globally established and regionally adapted for Colombia, Ghana, and India, among other countries. And this is something very important because part of the solution has to be very easy to be replicated to someone else or for someone else. After 2 years in Mexico and Colombia, these two countries, listening to women entrepreneurs at Integrity Coffee about how corruption impacts their businesses in a gender differentiated way, it was created a binational task force with the main partners of Alliance for Integrity in both countries. This working group was formed by more than 35 organizations from the public sector, private sector, business associations, international associations, and academia. And those proposed the creation of 3 business integrity products with a gender equality perspective that women entrepreneurs could pragmatically implement in their businesses. And I have to say that it is not only for women entrepreneurs. This is something that can be replicated in the small companies, medium companies, large companies, associations, foundations, chambers of commerce, everywhere. The first product is a guide to ensure a gender equality perspective in a compliance programs. It is a handbook, something that they can just replicate, in some cases just copy and paste. Secondly, is an infographic with a communication campaign on the relation between gender and corruption. And this is very important because I have to say that not most of the people and the companies see this close relation between gender and corruption. And third, a workshop on ethical negotiation as an added value for women entrepreneurs. So they will receive more skills and more tools in order to defend themselves before or against these corrupt acts. So for me, this is a vivid example of all the powerful and positive impact that can result from the creation of alliances, that this is exactly part of the solution, create alliances with other companies, with compliance officers and associations that promotes integrity. In my case, being part of Covestro, of course, and I think that we want to make the world a brighter place and push boundaries where it's possible. So we are convinced that integrity should include to be an active player in corporate social responsibility initiatives, because our corporate conduct should be characterized by a high-level responsibility as well as ethical principles. And one example is exactly this: assisting women business owners to be trained and to have access to free materials that help them to ensure gender perspective in their compliance efforts in their companies.
Yeah, thank you so much, Erica. So you stressed, you put a lot of stress on the collaboration between different actors. You mentioned the government, civil society, and the private sector. And being corruption such a complex problem, it makes a lot of sense to bring all these actors together to really provide solutions on a very practical level, but also on a systemic level to make sure that the business environment really improves and standards are improving. So mentioning civil society, I would like to hand over to Linda. Linda, you're bringing in the perspective of the civil society from Ghana, representing the local chapter of Transparency International, but you're also the chair of the advisory group of the Alliance for Integrity in 2021. So what is your experience from Ghana regarding the development of tools and services for women entrepreneurs and companies who want to work on the connection between gender and corruption?
Thank you very much, Susan. I must say that in Ghana, we have realized that women themselves should be part of the finding solution to the problem of ethical businesses. So then what do? You build women's capacity to be able to participate in identifying the challenges and also discussing and preferring solutions to the problems that impact them negatively when it comes to women businesses in Ghana. So we have actually adopted a number of initiatives, and I would just want to share about 2 or 3 of them. I can make mention of the WISE, that is Women in Integrity series, that was actually initiated by the Alliance for Integrity here in Ghana, which creates a platform for women CEOs, executive directors, women business startups, women in business, all forms of business, in all forms of the business ecosystem levels, participating and discussing, engaging, and exchanging ideas on good business practices and also business integrity. So they come to the platform, they get to know, and then they go back and implement same. So I'm actually emphasizing the point of capacity building for women, all levels of the business ecosystem, to get to know what the challenges are and what solutions are available, or what are the remedies available for them to take advantage of. I would also want to share a Transparency International initiative called Women, Land and Corruption, where the local chapter here in Ghana was able to build the capacity of women whose lands are being wrongfully taken away from them because their spouses were no more, and they needed this land to be able to do business to survive. So then through participatory videoing, we're able to build their capacity for them to tell their own story. So women as change agents, they are telling their own stories, and then they use the stories and the films that they have created to engage the policymakers and policy implementers and duty bearers to get solutions for the problems that they're encountering so far as doing business in their communities are concerned. Then I can also talk about Transparency International initiative called the Advocacy and Legal Advice Center. That is a platform on avenue for reporting corruption. But then ELAC is realizing that there is the need for us to focus more on women challenges and women corruption related matters. So we are trying to do research to know how to adopt gender sensitive corruption reporting mechanisms. So instead of using the normal reporting that everybody can use, what are the methods, what other new methods that actually focus on gender sensitiveness when it comes to corruption reporting can we adopt for women to be free enough to discuss matters on sextortion and all others? So there are a number of initiatives that are being adopted here in Ghana, solutions on ethical business practices that affect women. But basically, we are using capacity building, women empowerment, and making women themselves the change agents when it comes to addressing the issue of unethical business practices in Ghana.
Yeah, thank you so much, Linda. So what we learned from Mexico and from Ghana is that you first need to provide a space, a trustful space where women can openly discuss what are the challenges. And we heard before from Irene and from Soypatch that for women it's often difficult to raise their voice against corruption because they are integrated in networks. There are relationships with other persons that make them fear to speak up because they do not want to break these relationships. So these trustful spaces like the Integrity Coffee or WISE is certainly a good way to start when you want to work on different tools to make sure that women can be empowered to stand up against corruption and provide tools that that work with gender lens so that they are also adequate for the use of women. And you just mentioned some of the tools. I would like to share briefly 2 slides with you where you can see what tools have been provided by our guests. So it's just a quick, let's run quickly through this overview. As Brooke mentioned already, there's a very, there's an excellent report from UNDP, The Time Is Now, which reflects really the state of the art of the discussion on gender and corruption and shows cases from Indonesia and Brazil and Ghana. This is really excellent entry point to learn more about this, the 2 concepts. And then you can see here different tools from from our partners, from FABIS and UNDP and Alliance for Integrity and their partners. Can we see the second slide as well? You will be able to look closely at all these tools and others from other actors that are working in the field of gender and integrity on our websites. And you should be able to see now in the chat the links to these websites so that you can gather further information on the tools. And yeah, after the first round of Mentimeter, I really would like to invite all our participants to post their questions in the chat. Yeah, please feel free to ask or comment on what has been said so far. We are now entering into the third discussion round, and afterwards you will have the opportunity to get your questions answered. With this, I hand over to Brooke, and thanks again to Linda and Erica.
Yeah, thank you, Susanne. That's such inspiring examples of what can be done, even in very difficult circumstances. And congratulations to Linda and Erica for everything that you're doing. So now we're going to invite all our speakers to engage in a roundtable discussion about where do we go from here? Because I've been working on these kind of capacity building projects for too many years, and I have to say that sometimes I'm not totally convinced that we're actually winning the battle. I think we can all feel very pleased about the sort of reception that we get when we do a good training or we create a lovely toolkit, and we know that it's getting distributed because we can see the numbers. But I'm interested in impact. I'm not convinced that we really know how much impact these things are having. So how do we find out, first of all, how do we get some clear empirical evidence that this is not just helping a number of individuals, but is beginning to transform markets and society? How do we do that? And what sort of tools could we develop onwards from the usual training and toolkits? How can we make these into mass movements? When you talk about women as being drivers of social change, fine, but let's have the evidence and let's see how that change is really happening. Now, anybody like to comment on that provocative statement?
Yes, may I?
Yes, sorry, go ahead.
Okay, thank you, Brooke. We have done a workshop together. I believe in networking, and I believe in the power of speech or dialogues, that exchanging a dialogues or speeches that we have together. Since I started my own business 30 years ago, I joined the business association, especially the Business Women Association, because at least I will have my peers. I will have the same people who think alike, or in the association, at least to be members, they are selective, because there is a selection process to be a member in an association. So I feel that, okay, at least I have peers, I have women who have business like me, who is in business, not the same type of business, but who is in business, and they might face the same problems like me, and we can talk. And for 29 years, I'm members of the Federation of Business of Thailand, and we have 23 associations under the federation nationwide in all the areas of Thailand, in the north, in the south, in the northeast. So we have members, about 2,000 members, and these are business people.
I'm
Yeah.
sorry for interrupting, but let me just press you on this. So, okay, we did the training for your for quite a number of your
Yes.
young women entrepreneurs, and it was a very new topic. They were very enthusiastic once they
Yes.
understood what it was about, and even the more elderly chair people of the different regional associations got very enthusiastic about it as well. But what's going to happen next? I mean, where does this go? I mean, is it just going to be some more coffee and tea meetings, and that's what we mean by networking, or is it something more substantial?
No, I think the consequence is very strong. After the workshop, you know, that we create awareness, we create some kind of a movement, a fire or motivation in all these participants, and we select the young ones, meaning the young business persons from 35 to 45 years old, and there will be a future of our society, of a business people in our country, which they have more 20, 30 years to go. And I think if we approach them systematically with the right schedule of workshop, with the exactly planning programs, you know, this network will be very powerful, I believe, because, you know, I think you can see the effect from day one to the after 30 days, after 60 days, how we can move the small groups of the young business people to feel that it is the thing which is near them, which is the thing that we should help together, and that we can go together to make it a movement, to make it happen bit by bit. We cannot solve the problem in one day, but if we, you know, I mean, join hands and go together a bit by bit, I think at least we will make a move.
Well, I love the ambition, and I love the long-term view of this, which of course is necessary in anything to do with anti-corruption. But that's great. Thank you so much. Erica, did you want to put some ideas forward here?
Yeah, and I agree with you. I think that this is a very good question, because I think that is still missing something, that what else we can do. And as part, in my experience, as part of the different initiatives that I have been participated with Alliance for Integrity, a sounding board was created. And during the discussions, we came to the conclusion that to scale up and have more impact, it is necessary to have spaces to share experiences, being part of collective actions, and getting involved. And the important thing here is how are we going to do that? And from my perspective, I think that it is very important to strengthen the collection and availability of statistical data on the implementation and efficacy of anti-corruption with the gender perspective measures, and that could ensure prompt and comprehensive action by law enforcement as necessary. And finally, something that is utmost importance is to make existing tools like these tools visible and facilitate the search of data, a kind of a library of available resources. We have, all of us, we have to ensure that this information is available to everyone. We have to ensure, all of us, that the best practices are shared and are replicated all around the world. And I am convinced that if we work every day on these important topics, we will contribute on the reputation, on our reputation, the company's reputations. And remember that it is a key contributor to our values, the principles. Our stakeholders expect us to conduct with integrity.
Thank you. And just on the point of some kind of library of useful publications and for the exchange of experience, Sarah and Michelle have put out 2 links in the chat to our list of publications. Now, it's not really academic publications, but it's stuff that Alliance for Integrity and UNDP and other organizations like Transparency International have done in the last few years. And you can see that there's some really great practical experience, both at the level of advocacy and on training and toolkits. For example, in Irene might want to just share a couple of ideas from the toolkit for women entrepreneurs of Palau, which she and UNDP have co-produced. And also more academic publications. So it's all in there already, and we'll be developing this empirical base of information, and I hope some real data as well to accompany the great practical work that's going on at the grassroots level. Irene, would you like to comment on this? Where are you going to go from here?
Yes, I appreciate that question, Brooke, because I look and observe within Palau the way that the women have not been able to really speak out against corruption, even though they see it and they are aware of it, but they don't really know how to tackle corruption. So when we did the anti-corruption toolkit for Palau's women entrepreneurs, I purposely asked our group of Palau Chamber of Commerce colleagues who were organizing the event, let's do it on International Women's Day. And so we did organize it for International Women's Day, and the government heard about our organizing it, and then they organized something where the government was having a little bit of a program to talk about culture and other things that is important to the country, economy, COVID, and what the impacts of COVID. But then they invited me to be one of the speakers at the government sector. So we finished our workshop the whole day, and then I think it was a half day, and then I ran over for a half hour to be a speaker at the government. So that gave me an opportunity to express and explain to basically the country, because the government who was there had invited all of the stakeholders. Where in our workshop, we had about 40 to 50 women, business women from different sectors of small, micro, small, medium enterprises and international, some, married into the culture, different ethnicities. It was a very, very abundant and fruitful group of women talking and creating this toolkit. Whereas on the countryside, where the government, public sector, they were not aware how important corruption, the fight against corruption is. And so it gave me an opportunity to express to the stakeholders that we cannot expect economic recovery without the work for anti-corruption in this country.
Yeah, so I think this is a really interesting idea, which is, of course, we can spend a lot of effort preaching to the converted, which, well, in fact, raising the level of awareness, the capacity building of women, fine. But in the end, this has got to be translated into some kind of dialogue or advocacy or legal reform or legal enforcement at the level of government. And since
Correct.
Probably in most of the countries that we're talking about, the government is run by men, that's where the problem is. So unless we solve that, now, one of the things we got with Soypech's group was a very clear picture that there might be an opportunity for the young women entrepreneurs in a particular region of Thailand to engage with the local government. Doesn't have to be at the national level. It could be at the local government, and have that dialogue. I mean, after all, in a small society of a region or a city, there is a lot of common desire to rebuild the economy after COVID and so on. So, why would the men who are running the local administration not engage with a group of powerful women who want to help the economy? Why would they not?
Well, let me share with you that even though you can have a lot of material, things for people to read, still, action speaks louder than words. So in my society, where the women feel like they're afraid to say something, I must be an example. So I will step forward and start the dialogue. So I use this anti-corruption toolkit. It is just a tool to advocate for better laws and laws against corruption of all kinds. And so I also take it in every day of my life here in Palau. Wherever I go, if people ask me, I said, it is available here. You can read it. If you have any questions, please call the Palau Chamber of Commerce. We would be more than happy to sit with you. And then I also co-host a very popular talk show every Friday morning from 8 to 9 o'clock every Friday. And it's an open platform. It's called Udeswal, Food for Thought, talking about the most current important matters in the country. So I utilize that platform to talk about this, how important it is to fight against corruption. Palau signed the United Nations Conference of Anti-Corruption Convention in March 2009. It's 2021. We have to do something about it. We must, and this platform is live every Friday morning on radio and television. And so I'm talking to the leadership, and I am living as an example. I want the women to be this way. And so I invite other powerful women to the show to talk about it. Why is it important? Why is anti-corruption work important in this country? Why is it important for every business and every government agency to have a code of conduct? Why is it important that we not only have these materials sitting on the shelf? We have in Palau, we have the Ombudsman, the Ethics Commission, we have the Special Prosecutor, the Attorney General's Office. But still, corruption is #1 before illegal drugs as a problem. Why? Because the women are afraid. The women, it's matriarchal. The women have power. They own the properties. But why are they afraid to talk about it?
Elaine, that's the question you are asking your society at every level. You've very successfully engaged with government and with the media. And what you're doing, and I think this must be part of the scaling up, you are mainstreaming this.
I'm now empowering the women. That is what I want to do.
The very interesting, I'm going to turn to Linda now, but the very interesting idea is that, I feel sometimes when we're talking our anti-corruption language at these sort of conferences, we are talking to a group of specialist experts. The nice thing about the nexus of the gender agenda and the anti-corruption agenda is that we can actually belong to both the anti-corruption community, but also the Me Too community and the freeing of women from some kind of constraints that they've been placed under for centuries. So, this mainstreaming is going to be a critical element. So, Linda, how are you getting on with mainstreaming in Ghana? Are you engaging the government and the media? Is this the topic of the day in Ghana? How women can change society, how they can fight corruption? Now we've got a little bit
in my earlier submission, I focused on what women can do, building their capacities to be able to do a number of things. But in this round, I want to focus on what duty bearers, the role they have to play, and how women, together with other stakeholders, can hold them to account. And I'm saying so because there is corruption, because there is an unethical business environment. But there are stakeholders, policymakers, who have a responsibility under laws and policies to ensure that we have changed that unethical business practices. I'm giving an example. Not too long ago in Ghana here, through the work of investigative journalists, we were able to remove from office the CEO of the Public Procurement Authority because we got wind of the fact that he's engaging in unethical business practices and giving contract to people who have paid bribes. So then we were able to do documentary investigations, and through that, the man has been removed and prosecution is going to happen for him. So then this duty bearer has a role to play to ensure that because so through help, we can hold policymakers, policy implementers accountable to deliver on their mandates specified in legislation. The second thing I want us to look at is the role of the private sector. And I'm focusing on financial institutions. When we ask the participants to actually the challenges women face, they talked about so many things. And so we get to know that when women are going to look for money finances, they encounter some challenges. Why don't we demand from the private sector to create special funding arrangements for women? Reason being that they cannot compete, they cannot pay bribes like the men. And somebody talked about earlier on about the fact that they are the backbone of our society, of our families. So if we have good arrangement for women to easily secure funding for their work, then they will be free some way, somehow from the so we have demand from both policymakers, policy implementers to be accountable, and from the private sector to create opportunities for women to easily access resources to be able to engage or broaden or expand their business, so they don't become victims of corruption in their search for funding for their work. So these are the two key stakeholders we have to really look at when it comes to how do we move forward from here. That's my view.
Thank you very much, Linda. There's some specific and very concrete recommendations, and I have to say that I hope that this webinar of ours today is not going to be the first and last time that we meet and that we develop this topic, because I think there's a lot underlying our 1.5 hours together. There's a huge amount of experience, and I think that Alliance for Integrity and UNDP and World Economic Forum, PACI, will hopefully work together in the future to bring out some of these very, very good ideas and recommendations that we're hearing about, and also the ones that we're not hearing about, and which we hope we'll hear from the audience. So yeah, please everybody keep in touch. Erica, did you want to come back in on this, especially on the private sector role?
Yeah, exactly. And I wanted to just to share some information. I think that private sector has specifically large companies had raised awareness on corruption issues faced by women in the private sector, including sextortion, and along with local authorities and Chamber of Commerce associations, as I mentioned, should continue developing clear rules and regulations given to the dual benefit of promoting gender equality on one hand and reducing corruption in the other hand. And in my perspective, I think that what is still missing is the creation of positive incentives from the government, for instance, awards, certifications, even tax benefits to companies in order to differentiate and award the ones that are making efforts and assigning economical and human resources to fight corruption and gender inequality.
Thank you. Well, thank you very much, everybody, for your insights. I'm sure there's a lot more to be said on this, but time is running out, and I will hand back over to Susanna, who will moderate our further discussion, and hopefully there may be some questions from the audience. And so please do write in the chat any questions or comments that you've got for our speakers or that you just want to express. Susanna.
Yes, exactly, Brooke. The discussion is not over. We have some questions from the chat, and we also have some opinions from our participants in Mentimeter. We did not mention this second question here, but definitely a lot of participants answered also the questions regarding the possibilities for upscaling and more impact on these topics. And first of all, maybe Fernando, our technical support, can share the word cloud. And in the meantime, I would like to address one question from Cynthia Casarubias. She says that in the same countries, the circumstances can be different, maybe different. So how can regional, national, and local gaps be closed? I think that's an important point because it's easy to reach out to companies in the capitals, but what about the rural regions and the countryside? Who would like to take this question? Any ideas? Linda, as you shared the video from Transparency International from the widows, maybe you can elaborate a little bit on this question. Did you hear me?
So, yes, I heard a bit. Is anyone hearing me?
Yes, we all hear you.
We can hear you, but Linda, could I just suggest you take off your video for the moment, because I'm feeling the bandwidth is a little bit narrow from Ghana, but you can carry on talking now and hopefully we'll hear you.
Okay.
Go ahead.
So at Transparency International, we actually implement a number of regional initiatives. So then even the video on women, land, and corruption, or our work on women, land, and corruption was a cross-country project. So we have it in about 4 or 5 countries where different countries were tackling various angles. We focused on land, other people focused on women and their challenges in private sector businesses. So there are different dimensions of the work that we do across region. So we actually design projects together, but we try to implement them based on the specific needs of women in a particular country. So then we can actually do joint initiatives across regions, and we have done so in the past at Transparency International. We have tackled issue of corruption and the judiciary, corruption in so many other aspects, sector-specific issues. So corruption in water. So we can actually do women corruption issues from different angles, but then as a joint project. That is speaking from Transparency International's perspective. We've done so in the past, and we can actually do so going forward.
Yeah, thank you so much, Linda, for your answer. And I have here another comment in the chat from YW Junardi. There are short and long-term issues. Cultural transformation, capacity building for women at work, and education for the young generation. I think these are additional interesting aspects. We heard from cultural transformation already. What about education as a pillar, a very important pillar for future generations to assume the values of integrity and ethics? Would anybody like to comment on this?
I would like to comment on that. So again, in Ghana, we have what we call integrity clubs, and we try to bring children to appreciate the importance of integrity, transparency, accountability principles at a very tender age. So from the school level to the secondary school to the university level, young people are trained to understand and appreciate these things. And also through what we call the Advocacy and Legal Advice Center, which is present in over 60 Transparency International chapters, people are given avenues to report corruption when they become victims and witness of corruption. So then we start them very young. We don't have corruption as a curriculum in education system, but we have other topics or other subjects that can actually discuss issues of corruption. But so partnering with civil society organizations and state agencies, young people are actually enlightened and trained and sensitized on the importance of integrity and transparency and accountability and integrity and anti-corruption in general. And now in Ghana, we have what we call a cultural awareness program, which was launched at the just ended Transparency International Anti-Corruption Day on the 9th of December. So it's very, very important to bring young people on board some of these topics.
Yeah, thank you, Linda. I think this is a very a huge task to promote a cultural transformation, but it all starts with education. It all starts with children. Erica, you wanted to comment on this post as well?
Yeah, and as in the report that time is now that the UNODC published, I truly believe that the education is critical element in advancing gender equality and economic empowerment of women. Both are key countering the gender dimensions of corruption and the economic empowerment of women. And both can tackle this the different topics, but at the same time. That means the gender inequality, and in the other hand, the corruptions. And my perspective and what I have seen in my experience is that we were focusing the last years in educating in big companies, in the companies in general. And now we have to maybe step back and go into the basics and start educating from the elementary school and with the children, and afterwards going and involve the younger people, because they have this spirit in this willing to change the world, because it's our world. So definitely this is part of being educating people and training people, and this is the role or part of the solutions that I want to convey in this forum, that the sector or the private sector can be a big player in this education and training in general as part of the solution.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, thank you, Erica. And Irene is raising her hand.
Mm-hmm. I totally agree with Erica and Linda, and I'm going to add to what they both have stated. As an entrepreneur at heart, I believe in the work ethic across the globe. All women have this in common. If we nurture what we love, if you work doing what you love, you are you're developing yourself as a woman to be strong and to be more protected in a way of being able to see where corruption comes in. A lot of women who take jobs or who do things that they don't love, it is not their passion. And I mentor young entrepreneurs, so I always tell them this: you must, nurture what you love, because when you do what you love and your passion is in what you love, then your work will reflect everything that is of your individual values. And with that, you can be more aware of corruption, and you'll be more resilient against corruption. And I think from the first question on how we could share this regional, we all have our unique cultures, but really I believe that all women across the globe have something in common. We are nurturers normally, and to find something in a work ethic manner that we can train children. Like what Erica was saying, the private sector, I really truly believe the private sector can have a huge impact in educating. Education doesn't just happen in a classroom. It happens in the business. It happens in the work field, where people actually their children are with them when they are doing their business with integrity. And that's how the children learn to have integrity. And I just wanted to add that I appreciate your share. Erica and Linda, because it starts young and it's for us adults, adult women. If we live it, we do what we love in our work, we practice business integrity, it just, your life will help to educate the young people to have integrity as well.
Yes, thank you, Irene, for this passionate comment. I think it's just about attitude and about promoting value among children, but not only, also in the business world. So this is, I guess, the starting point for everything that we want to have to do before we think of more complex tools and strategies. So Soilpatch, would you like to add on this very quickly? Because before we close this session, I would like to show to the word cloud that has been made by our participants on Mentimeter. But Soilpatch, the floor is yours.
Thank you. For me, I think that I would like to concentrate importance on the business ladies, business women. And, I will not go yet to the school because I think that we put a lot to our children already. And I think that they learn a lot and they should learn to be, to grow up to be a very good citizen. But I think for a business person, there are much more dimensions that I think that we should, as a business people, as a business women, help each other. I think by having more seminar, having more workshop, and define whether I don't think that anti-corruption 100%, it is too positive. How do we lessen it? How otherwise we cannot facilitate our business. What does it mean by a token of appreciation, to facilitate our business, to make our business work, or this is a little bit of help, or this is too strong, we should say no to it. The degree of how we should define, or we should accept or not accepting it, to what type of extent. And on top of that, the law, we should have more workshop with with the people, also from the government, the lawyers, the one who issue the laws, or we learn it from a real case scenario. What had happened to our business, what do we face, and how do we have a solution for those questions, or for those problems, or those problems that we have to face. I think for business people, together we will learn and find a solution together, because we do the business in the business world.
Thank you so much, Soilpatch. So it's again all about doing things together, creating synergies, and look for solutions all together. Let's have a quick look at our word cloud from Menti. What do our participants think? Yeah, we have here some, you can all see the words. I think it's all about empowerment, leadership. We have another point, digitalization, which has not been mentioned so far. It would be enough food for another session, I guess. Inclusion, transparency, access to justice, for sure. Equal pay is an important policy that has to be assured and is not attained in many countries. So thank you for all these inputs and for your thoughts and contributions. And coming now to an end, on behalf of the Alliance for Integrity, I just would like to thank you already. I think there's a lot to do still. We need to work on indicators and have qualitative and quantitative measurement on gender and integrity issues, because this is the basis for the practical work on tools and compliance management systems in the companies, but also the ground to be able to have a dialogue between public and private, and to definitely promote gender-sensitive legislation, enforcement, and also reporting mechanisms. So with this, I would like to hand over to Brooke first, and then to Katja. Thanks a lot for all your
Thank you very much, Susanna and Alliance for Integrity, and thanks to all of our speakers for a very entertaining and interesting and forward-looking discussion. I can't help feeling that the real catchphrase that's come out for me is leadership. It's role models and leadership, and that's what we have to cultivate, whether it's at school or university, higher education, or in the workplace. And one of the things that in UNDP we'll be looking at for the future is how can we engage mentors and coaches into this process? And again, the private sector has got a lot of experience here. Now, before I wrap up on behalf of UNDP, I just want to say one thing very quickly, which is that one of the pillars of our Fair Biz project, many of you will know, Liviana Zorzi is leaving. This is just about her last work day, although she'll still be working unofficially for the next few weeks, but this is her last public event. I don't know if we could have a spotlight on Liviana, could we, Fernando? Sorry, this is just going to take us over the hour, but I do want to do this because Liviana has been instrumental in driving this topic for the last 4 years within Fair Biz. Liviana, have you got your video on? Can we see you? And anyway, Liviana has done so much to promote this topic, and I hope she will continue to do it more. Personally, I've learned a huge amount from her, and I'd like to wish her well on behalf of all of us at UNDP, and I'm sure the other organizations and stakeholders that have worked with her. Round of applause there. You can do some virtual applause as well. Thank you. Good luck to you, Liviana. Yes, and on behalf of UNDP, thanks to our partners for organizing this meeting jointly with us. Thanks to the UK government for supporting the Fair Biz project. And now over to you, Katja.
Well, many thanks, Brooke. I mean, we're already over the hour, but this was such a passionate discussion. It was really, really great. Thanks to our moderators, Susanna and Brooke, to our fabulous speakers, Irene, Soipesh, Erika, and Linda, for this great session. What we have discussed today, you have heard it, it will not be lost. The organizations will take it forward together and also as individual organizations. And yeah, I don't know, thanks to the audience for their questions. And last but not least, we couldn't be in person in Egypt today, which is obviously a shame. But we would like to also send our greetings to the UNCA COSP in Egypt. Hope some of you in the room were able to listen and to follow our discussion online. And yeah, thank you all and goodbye.
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 Bye.